Before we begin this video, once again, big shout-outs over to the Prospect Network for building up this incredible 2020 NHL entry draft guidebook. It's 300 pages long. It goes over 62 prospects with full in-depth scouting reports and in-depth analysis on their individual traits, as well as a mock draft and some potential sleepers. It also ranks and gives synopsis for 100 prospects in this draft too. So it's a very good book. If you're interested in the prospects of this draft to any extent, feel free to go over there and get yourself a copy. It's $7. It costs less than a venti coffee. It's very, very valuable, especially compared to the actual cost itself. Trust me, this is me giving my seal of approval for this over here. It's a very good book. You will not regret the purchase. But today, we're talking about Henrik Lundqvist. So this is a thing, right? We talked about Henrik Lundqvist and the buyout that eventually did happen a day before the buyout actually happened. But what we have not considered, aside from the idea of King Hank just laying back and chilling out, is what exactly he could do with his hockey career next. Now, I know we covered it in one sentence in the previous video, saying, oh, he could go back to Sweden, maybe play out some hockey with his twin brother, Joel Lundqvist, or he could sign with another team, I don't know. But there are indeed so many people speculating as to what could happen with Henrik Lundqvist if he does decide to come back to the NHL and re-sign with another club. Who knows if this is going to be the same Marty Brodeur in St. Louis situation where everybody kind of was forced into an uncomfortable situation seeing Martin Brodeur in a Blues jersey after spending decades with the Devils. But we may indeed be on a similar front here with Lundqvist. Going over to Spectre's Hockey because they had a very good roundup of all the rumors from earlier yesterday. October 1st rumor mill from Spectre's Hockey goes over several articles where people are speculating the heck out of Henrik Lundqvist's future. Today in this video, we're going over a few of those. Today we're checking out the New York Post because Larry Brooks wrote an article talking about Lundqvist. We're talking about what Mike Johnston said on Sportsnet. We're talking about James O'Brien on NBC Sports, and we're also talking about NBC Sports in general. Because when it comes to Henrik Lundqvist as a netminder, the guy is 38 years old. He is not getting any younger. And sure, he kind of did his part in the play-in series against the Carolina Hurricanes. He wasn't terrible in those games that he eventually did play. But the fact is, he's a guy who is coming off of a bad run with the New York Rangers in the postseason where they lost all of their games, frankly speaking. But he's a player who does not really reflect that result. So, what exactly are you getting here with a Henrik Lundqvist reaching the free agent market? Well, what you're getting is the potential of having a really, really solid backup. The guy is already getting paid money. If you get bought out, especially on a contract that is as hefty as $8.5 million a season, you as an athlete are still going to get paid. It's just not as much as the remaining contract on the dollar would have been worth. But for Henrik Lundqvist, he's a guy who still will be getting some dollars from the Rangers, so it gives me all the reason in the world to believe that Lundqvist is not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, get a contract that is near or even close to that $8.5 million AAV that he signed with the Rangers a long time ago. He's not really worth that on the market anymore. Especially since he got outplayed by Georgiev and Shesterkin, not just in terms of performance, but in terms of age as well, because that's a very big factor as to why he even did get bought out. But here we have a few teams that are gone over in Larry Brooks' New York Post article as to where Lundqvist could potentially land. He lists the St. Louis Blues, the Golden Knights if they trade Marc-Andre Fleury, the Hurricanes, the Oilers, and the Canucks if they cannot keep Jacob Markstrom as free agent options. Now, the Blues, interesting position over here. They just got rid of Jake Allen. They have themselves Jordan Binnington. They're betting on themselves with Binnington going forward into the long-term future, despite Allen being the better statistical goaltender in the regular season and in the postseason. Very interesting scenario over there. Could Henrik Lundqvist become a St. Louis Blue? Well, if they want to shell out the cheap money and he's willing to accept it, then maybe. Again, the Martin Brodeur in St. Louis situation kind of going full circle and repeating itself. Furthermore, Vegas Golden Knights, if they trade Marc-Andre Fleury, well, they're going to have Robin Lehner and Henrik Lundqvist, a very good Swedish goaltending duo. That does sound very near and dear to my heart. I would love to see that, just not against the Vancouver Canucks. Furthermore, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. We already saw rumors about Peter Mrazek being on the block. We saw rumors about the Hurricanes wanting Frederik Andersen from the Leafs. If they're able to get a Henrik Lundqvist, hey, that'd be pretty cool. Seeing Lundqvist mentor all the young guys and the youthful talent that does exist over there in Carolina. For the Edmonton Oilers, they're a team that everybody's been kind of saying, okay, they need goaltending. Just regardless of who it is, goaltending. Give this team the ability to have a goalie who can steal games. And Lundqvist, even though he's 38, he still has that ability, in my opinion, to pull a rabbit out of the hat once in a while and get his team the victory when he probably shouldn't be getting it. Furthermore, we have the Vancouver Canucks, and this is probably the one that I wanted to spend a lot more time on, because the Canucks are in a position where, they kind of have a goaltending dilemma. It's Demko, it's Markstrom. Who do we sign? Who do we keep? Who goes to Seattle? Who stays? Because Markstrom's in a position where he indeed is one of the main focuses of the Vancouver Canucks in terms of their free agency off-season draft plan. They have to kind of decide everything with Markstrom first before they go ahead and do other stuff, because Markstrom is one of the most important parts of this team. But you've got Thatcher Demko, who's right behind him, who is looking as ready as ever to take over the reins in net. So, if you're in a position where Jacob Markstrom ends up leaving, and you give that number one spot to Thatcher Demko, I'd much rather have Henrik Lundqvist on a cheap 1-2 year deal as the backup than Louis Domingue. Sorry, Domingue. Great baker, very good human being for this Vancouver Canucks locker room, but the body of work, the legacy, the overall status of a Henrik Lundqvist to me just sounds more valuable as a backup, especially in a position where he's, 14 years older than Thatcher Demko. Imagine the overall leadership and mentor position a guy like Lundqvist could take in regards to Demko's development. When it comes to Sportsnet's article, this is what Mike Johnston mentioned out. The Vancouver Canucks are actually on Johnston's list too, along with the Colorado Avalanche, the Capitals, the Stars if they fail to re-sign Khudobin, and then you have the Blackhawks as well if they move on from Corey Crawford. That would be really interesting to see Henrik Lundqvist with the Chicago Blackhawks. Imagine him being that number one with Chicago. Oh man, just the whole world would implode on itself inside out if that indeed did happen. The interesting one for me here, though, is the Dallas Stars, the team that is coming off of a Stanley Cup final defeat. Sorry, Stars fans, it does hurt. I know how it feels. But Anton Khudobin is a guy who absolutely carried the heck out of this team. He won so many games that his team probably should not have been able to win, and it was because he was such a good goalie. But the problem is Khudobin, he's no young guy himself. He's also kind of approaching the end of his career as opposed to the start of it. So he's in a position where, as a UFA, we don't really know if the Stars are going to be able to keep this guy or just roll along with Bishop. If Bishop is even going to be available, that's another question in itself too. So if they want to get themselves the best goalie of New York Rangers history in Henrik Lundqvist, then who knows if that is actually going to be an option. On NBC, we had ourselves the Capitals, the Stars, the Blues, the Golden Knights, the Penguins, of all people. That would be very interesting. Jari Lundqvist, my gosh. The Flyers, the Maple Leafs, and the Jets as well. The Leafs are an interesting one because, hey, Frederik Andersen, is he on the block? We don't know. Well, we kind of do know. We kind of talked about it a few weeks ago that Andersen was indeed on the trading block despite Kyle Dubas coming out and saying that he wasn't. But Andersen's a guy who, hey, if you want to get yourselves a nice goalie coming back, maybe you're in a position where getting a guy of Frederik Andersen's caliber or above isn't as important if you have a backup like Lundqvist. Again, Lundqvist can steal you a game or two still. He's known as the king for a reason now, isn't he? And it's not even like a Lundqvist kind of character would not fit in with Toronto because he played in New York. That's a pretty big market. Lundqvist is a cool, calm, collected Swedish dude who knows what to do with the media. I think that the Toronto media, sure, it would be a very, very big adjustment for most people. But for guys who just know how to handle those types of things, like a Henrik Lundqvist, I think it'd be a very good fit, personally speaking, in my mind. Just seeing Lundqvist as a backup or maybe a 1B scenario in the Toronto Maple Leafs system. But of course, there are so many more teams. We have covered so many of them, by the way, here in this video. I think that's just kind of a testament to the overall need for goaltenders in today's NHL market. Everybody kind of knows that goalies are on the move, that different teams are going to need to acquire other guys. We've got guys in the rumor mill like Jacob Markstrom, Darcy Kemper, Corey Crawford, Robin Lehner, Braden Holtby. We've got goalies on the move. Murray, Andersen, all these guys too. Jake Allen was already moved, so we don't know what's going to happen. But if there is indeed a brand new team that takes on Henrik Lundqvist and becomes the Kings' new home, then I'd be very interested in seeing what that is. Talk to me in the comments what you think that team would, could, or should be. Also, if you're taking a look at the draft and you're interested in what's coming up next, check out the Prospect Network and their draft guide. It's a very, very good guide. I will keep on vouching for that until the day the draft is done. Link is in the description below, of course. I hope you enjoyed this video, though. Comment down below what you think about Lundqvist. So that is Troll 99. And bye.